Hi there, and welcome to the first episode of Beyond the Blast Doors. I'm David. This is Jesse. Jesse, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good, David. How you doing today?
Good. I'm just excited that we're here for the first episode. It's finally happening. This is something that we've been wanting to do. I've been wanting to do for a year. We've been talking about this for like a month and a half, though.
Yeah, about a month and a half, I think.
It's a small crew today because we're recording on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And so mothers come first, right? So juggling all those schedules, but it's a two-man show. We'll add more as the show progresses. So with that, I say we just get right into it because we have a lot to talk about. I don't think it's worth trying to catch up on the last 3 years that we haven't been doing a show, but we'll go with
too much to cover there.
Yeah, well, let's start with what has dropped this week, and the first thing is it's a great segment we like to call Real News, and Real News is the category where we're going to be talking about everything that's new in the movies, whether that's the saga films, the Skywalker saga films, or the standalone movies that are coming out, which, if they're anything like Rogue One, I think we can all say we have a lot of great stories to look forward to. Yeah. Was worried about the tangents, but it'll be fine. And the first story of the day out of Real News is Kylo's New Ride. Now, this is a story from the good people over at StarWarsNewsNet.com. They're hands down the best aggregator of Star Wars news on the internet right now, and they're the ones providing several of our main stories today. And if you've seen the image, if you're watching right now, you see the images right now on your screen. If you're listening online, then just check out our Facebook and Instagram. You can follow along. You'll see all the images. But it's a slick ride. This is, again, Making Star Wars.net was originally the ones who published this photo. Makito is actually the company that had it online. StarWarsNews.net was the ones that just really blew it out and got all the fans aware of this. But, Jesse, you've seen the renderings of the concept art. You've also seen that toy image. What are your thoughts on Kylo's New Ride?
Well, it's a little early. It's something that could change, possibly, but it's a mixture of a TIE Interceptor and Darth Vader's TIE Advanced Starfighter. But I'm also seeing hints of like an old B-52 bomber.
Yeah.
Like you'd see in World War II.
In the cockpit.
The cockpit
yeah.
And everything. Which is really great because George Lucas, you look at the films and themselves, and there's a lot of similarities pulled from World War I, World War II. Like the dogfighting, for example, huge influence on that. So just seeing this fighter, and knowing what I know about TIE Interceptors and the lore and everything, they're an aggressive fighter. This thing's gonna pack a punch. We know that Vader's personal TIE fighter had a hyperdrive and shields on it. So I mean, this is gonna be a formidable ship that I think is going to be very dangerous as far as space battles go.
That's what I'm excited about. I think for the first time, we're going to see Kylo dogfight. And my thing is this. He's the grandson of Anakin Skywalker. He's related to Han Solo. His uncle is Luke Skywalker. Those are a lot of great pilots, some of the best pilots that we've seen in the Star Wars galaxy.
In his genes, basically.
And that ship is so incredible. Now, if you go ahead and you read that article, you'll actually see that they also talk about how the back is inspired by the Millennium Falcon. If you look at not the concept art, but if you look at that Makito image, you'll actually see that the wings, they're hexagonal, they look like that TIE Interceptor, but the back, the engines, looks like the Millennium Falcon, or at least influenced by. And I think that's so cool that, the two greatest influences, the man he worships in Vader, the man he loathes in his father Han, are both integrated in that ship design. I think that's super cool. But I want to see Kylo fight. I want to see him dogfight because we didn't get to see him really pilot. We just, saw him throw a couple tantrums, right?
Well, his Force capabilities are still kind of up there.
Mm-hmm.
Force Awakens, he stopped a blaster bolt mid-flight. We know that he can manipulate the mind quite a bit and be able to actually pull information. So it'll be interesting to see really how his abilities, comes just from natural, his natural ability that maybe he picked up from Han at an early age, possibly even Luke.
It's going to be cool.
If he spent time with Luke at all as a child, and even Chewie himself. I mean, he's been around, pilots.
Absolutely. But you know what, though, you just mentioned, I think he's learned a lot from Luke because if you read the Bloodlines novel, and this is skipping ahead, I know this is more of a canon thing, but he's with Luke 5 years before Force Awakens.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm thinking that he's picked up a few tricks from Luke, and I think that's going to be interesting. I don't think we're seeing Luke get into a cockpit of an X-wing in The Last Jedi, but we're gonna see some Skywalker maneuvers, and it's gonna be sweet.
And we definitely know that there is some sort of space battle in the next movie.
Right, because we've seen that in the teaser.
It's in the teaser trailer,
which you can find on our YouTube channel. It's the third video on the channel. Want to make sure we pitch
if you
that.
haven't seen it, you need to watch it.
Yeah, like it, thumbs up. Yeah,
it's amazing. So
shameless promotion is a good thing, right?
oh yes, definitely.
All right, next topic, we're going to be talking about the new Han Solo standalone film. And I got to tell you, when this movie was first announced, I was really nervous. But a lot of new images have dropped in the last 7 days. We do now know that production has begun in Spain. A TV station actually flew a helicopter over the filming location and has a great aerial. And you're going to see, if you're watching online, you're seeing that aerial image right now on your screen. Jesse, you take a look at that image, and for me, I think it's just fine. Like, we know it's happening, and that's like the best feeling is knowing that even though there is a lot of skepticism surrounding this movie, at least you know that it's happening, and it makes you confident that hopefully soon we're going to see some footage. You see this image, what do you think?
I get excited because it's one of the great things that Abrams kind of started bringing back practical props and actually building sets.
Yeah. Do you think this is a planet that we've been to already?
I think so. Given that this is a young Han Solo, I think potentially that we're looking at maybe Tatooine as a possibility. Of course, Star Wars is a very big place. There's a lot of planets in this galaxy. So,
totally.
So it's one of those things where I like to think it's Tatooine because Han, in A New Hope, he's made Jabba angry because he dumped cargo, kind of thing. So it's just like, that he's had to visit Tatooine. I mean, he's on Tatooine,
right?
In A New Hope. So it's one of those things where it's quite possible that, yes, this is just a location that they've picked out for a certain part of the movie. I mean, we know that, they filmed the movies in Tanzania. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. But it's just, I can't wait. Because when you see that stuff, you're going, yeah, there'll be some CGI, but that some of it's going to actually be there.
You're trying to figure out what that image is, and it looks maybe like it's a spaceport. Maybe it's, maybe we found like the next cantina. Maybe it's like a new cantina in the Star Wars galaxy.
Considering that this movie is about the scoundrels and smugglers of the underworld and, the Outer Rim, I mean, just look at it, the Force Awakens, Maz's palace.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically, a kind of a cantina, dive bar,
right?
Kind of, and everything. So it's quite possible that that's what we could be looking at as a small spaceport or, trading location. After all, they are smugglers.
Yeah.
This looks like an isolated place to some degree too. So if we're dealing with a time frame where the Empire is very much at large and they're enforcing new laws and restrictions, so it would make sense for some of these desert planets to kind of be an ideal location for smugglers to meet up and everything.
You mentioned the CG. Right now it looks like this outpost. Kind of reminds me of Jakku. There could be so much CG with this. I mean, we could be seeing some structures, some ships, but there's no telling. I mean, this might be a Mos Eisley on the other side of the planet. It could also be another planet that we haven't seen. I gotta think that at some point in this movie, in this Han Solo standalone, we're gonna see Corellia. We're gonna see where he comes from, and I would
love that.
I like to think that this is the planet, but I don't think it is. I think this is Tatooine. I think Corellia looks something completely different. And we have some brief descriptions of what the planet looks like in the canon books that we have right now. Disney is slowly but surely cranking out those canon novels, giving us more insight into what these places look like. But I think it's safe to say this is Tatooine. It's Tatooine.
It feels that way. Like, it's just... the Force is guiding me to believe that.
That's funny.
That it's Tatooine.
They're not going to give us 2 desert planets in one movie, right?
But...
I would hope not.
You mentioned, though, I mean, more of where he comes from, and there is a little bit of mystery even surrounding Han Solo. I mean, at A New Hope, it hasn't been 20 years, and he's already treating the Jedi Order as, a hokey religion.
Right.
You know, and that says a lot about potentially. I mean, some people may have never even seen a Jedi. You know,
Yeah.
it kind of depends on where he's actually grown up.
Yeah.
I mean, he may be from Corellia, but maybe he didn't really grow up there. You know, so he didn't actually see. He's old enough to where he would remember.
I'm so
the Jedi to some degree, but maybe he just wasn't around them enough to actually see what they were capable of.
Yeah, and this is a tangent, dude. We need to do an episode where we just speculate what this movie's going to be, because I feel like they're already going to cram so much stuff in it. You're going to have Chewie. Lando's already showing up in the first film. And they want to do a trilogy with Han Solo. They're investing in Aiden Ehrenreich. So, man, but I'm so nervous about how much they're going to cram in. But if there's two things I want to see him dealing with Jabba. I do want to see Jabba in this film, and I do want to see him coming out of Corellia. So, whether this is Tatooine or Corellia, or maybe some warped desert version of Naboo, I don't care.
Photo does. I think it gives a gritty feeling.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I loved about Rogue One in itself.
Yeah.
There was kind of a different side of Star Wars. It wasn't cheerful,
Yeah.
Cassian, kills somebody, right off the bat. Sorry, spoilers, but you should have seen it by now.
I think if you haven't seen that movie in the 5 months that it's been out, 6 months, I think it's
So it's one of those things where
we don't have a spoiler graphic yet for you. I'm sorry.
But it's just one of the it's a really gritty movie.
Right.
It's dark. It has a very dark ending.
And I think that's a tone that we're going to see in this Han Solo movie, because the next thing on our list, you're talking about the grittiness, that new ship rendering that has dropped on the internet within the last couple of days, and this is incredible. So we were talking about this earlier. These renderings of the ship, it looks like it's an Imperial shuttle, and we'll throw up that image right now on the screen. It looks like a transport or something, but these got leaked from the set onto eBay. Someone is trying to sell these images. I'm more curious to find out when this guy or girl gets fired, because I cannot believe they would be able to pull a sin off like this.
Well, who's going to get fired and who's going to get sued? This is my question here, is because
either way, it's not us, and that's why it's going to be funny to watch, right? But the ship looks cool, and it does fit that Star Wars era.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, just looking through those designs and concepts, I've even seen ship designs that are reminiscent of the Old Republic era, which if you haven't played Knights of the Old Republic or Star Wars The Old Republic,
or haven't signed the petition to make the Knights of the Old Republic a Netflix series,
we need to cover that sometime too, because
I've signed it.
Highly recommend if playing those games, because they're a great story.
Right. And it's cool to see if they can give some influence in this Han Solo film to that era.
Yes. So it's one of the things that I've actually noticed recently that's been happening is they're bringing a lot of what was considered the expanded universe or even Legends.
Oh my gosh,
bringing
yes.
that into the movies.
And we're going to talk about that in a little bit with Thrawn.
Oh,
but
yes.
if they can bring that in the Han Solo film, I think that's a great step in the right direction, because with Rogue One, they did exactly what they needed to do, which was to bring you back to that era of practical effects and the grittiness that you described. Mm-hmm. If they can bring some EU stuff, and that's another, no one's going to know what to expect.
Well, The Hutt Gambit is an expanded universe book, about a young Han Solo.
Working for the Hutts.
Yeah, working for the Hutts. I mean, of course, he's getting in trouble. I mean, it
wouldn't be a Han story right without
Han,
it. Yeah,
unless he got in trouble. So, it's just, I'm excited about this film. I'm excited about the cast. There's just too many characters and cast members that really, at this point, to really discussion about. But I think the ones that we saw in the picture that everybody's seen, where they're all in the cockpit and the Falcon, all laughing and everything. I think those are going to be the characters you want to keep an eye on as far as their concept art and maybe their costuming.
Absolutely, and I hope that's the vibe of this movie. I think it's going to be action. I think there's going to be comedy, and I think that's what you would expect with a Han Solo movie. You're not going to get lightsabers. I don't expect to see any lightsabers. I don't think we should. I think it should be a lot of blaster fire.
I kind of want an Old West kind of feel.
You want a Logan styled Star Wars movie,
yes.
But it's Han Solo. Unless Wolverine in a Star Wars film, that would definitely be breaking the mold.
That would be.
That would be breaking the mold.
Breaking the mold quite a bit.
Next topic we got, and this is one that's really fascinating. Rian Johnson, the director of Episode 8, The Last Jedi, shares with in an interview that he asked JJ Abrams to alter the ending of The Force Awakens. Originally, when Rey arrives at Ahch-To and tracks down Luke, she originally had BB-8, but Rian was like, no, I need R2-D2 to be there. And there's already been some speculation of JJ, I don't want to say like ruining the movie, because I don't think he ruined the movie, but he definitely changed the direction that the movie was originally intended. Snoke was originally going to be Sith, like outright, and he said, no, Snoke is not a Sith. That's not how this is going to happen.
There's a lot of speculation about Snoke.
There is.
I mean, there's a lot of theories out there, and some of them I look at and I laugh and just say, you're on a bandwagon,
right.
You're not a true fan. The worst one I read was that Boba Fett was Snoke. I'm a huge Boba Fett fan, and
well,
I had.
You have your own Mandalorian armor.
Yeah, without a doubt,
cosplayer. This guy, he's talented.
I do cosplay and prop making on the side and everything, but some of these theories, even for a while there, I thought this was really funny, but gosh, I really feel like we need a spoiler thing,
well, then let's hold on that, but let's talk about though. What do you think about Rian telling AJ, "This is how you're ending your movie"?
It really kind of surprised me because, it makes sense. I think it would do. My impression of Luke at the end of The Force Awakens is when he turns around and removes the hood. There's pain, written all over his face. It's in his eyes. He's seeing that, this lightsaber that he hasn't seen in over 30 years. The last time he had it, he was fighting his father above, Cloud City and everything. And, it was kind of funny. I was talking with a friend of mine. He's just like, he was probably wondering where his hand was too, but you got the lightsaber. Where's the hand?
Yeah.
But on a serious note, you can definitely, he doesn't say anything, but it's such a powerful scene.
Yeah.
Because you can tell there's hurt on his face. There's uncertainty on Rey's face.
Right.
She doesn't know what to expect. She's meeting somebody that, to her, has been a legend, a myth,
right,
all her life.
Well, and luckily, Rian was never saying take out Rey. He was saying change out the droids. Yeah. So what do you think? I think it makes sense though, because R2 is his buddy. BB-8 is just a cute little droid that they sold a lot of merchandise for, and I think that BB-8 did serve a valuable role in that movie.
He's a great character.
Cute character. But it made no sense for him showing up there. R2 is Luke's droid, and I think moving forward it makes a lot of sense. But it really does intensify some of my concerns that I don't agree with how JJ wanted to try and make this movie different. He picked the wrong things, I think, for the homages to the original film, and that's a debate for another time.
Oh, definitely.
I am very salty with him that I didn't get Luke, Leia, and Han together just one more time, especially with the untimely death of Carrie Fisher. And I'm not trying to be selfish as a fan, being like, "Oh, Carrie's dead," I want Luke, Leia, and Han together. It's just a bummer because it was like, that's the one bit of nostalgia I wanted. They didn't need to give me Starkiller Base. They didn't need to give me, basically a mere reflection of A New Hope. I just wanted those three characters together one more time.
Even Abrams admitted that he made a mistake by not
letting Chewie and Leia hug at the end. Yeah,
there was, considering that. Han and Leia were married. You can speculate that they were married.
It's separated. There was some
but
tension
they were separated
there.
And everything. But at one point in time, they were together.
Mm-hmm.
The Chewie's best friend, his brother.
Yeah.
Just died.
Mm-hmm.
He's been with Han, for years, and and he's known, the princess, for a decent amount of time as well. You would think that there would have been just a little more emotion between the two, and it's possible that maybe we will see something along those lines towards the beginning of this next movie, which would kind of correct that. Or, as we're all well aware, we tend to get a lot of recuts and special edition
I don't think you're gonna have that with the new trilogy. I really don't. I think we're gonna have just the version,
Yeah.
and they're not even giving out all the deleted scenes. I mean, they've already said that we're not giving you any deleted scenes for Rogue One because basically what the deleted scenes is a whole third of a movie that they changed.
Rogue One, they completely. For those that don't know, they really rewrote the whole movie. Really,
Well, yeah, because
originally
Gareth Edwards didn't think that they were gonna let him kill off everybody.
Originally there was a scene of them running across the beach with the plans
Mm-hmm.
in hand, and that got completely removed and rewritten. So yeah, it raises a good question. I mean, we do tend to see kind of re-edits and everything. I mean, the original trilogy has gone through probably 3 or 4 by now.
97, 2000, 2004, 2007. Yeah. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Some of the changes, were questionable.
Empire's the only one where it's like, and this is a tangent. We need to go to the next topic, but Empire is the one that got changed, and I thought all the changes made sense.
Yeah.
It was probably one of the more tampered with movies, and I thought it was for the better.
I don't care.
Windows in Cloud City, man, so valuable. That beautiful skyline.
Really, the only one that I really it gets me every time is Han shot first. He always shot first. There's no question about it. I have the VHS tapes to prove it. But Han shot Greedo first.
I feel like this is like a soapbox that everyone's had at least one time in the mirror, in the bathroom, after they're shaving. Maybe that's just me. Let's go
up and just say Han shot first.
Well, let's go to the next topic, where Rian Johnson is still our hero after battling JJ Abrams to alter the ending of the Force Awakens. He decides to do a really cool video to the fans for May the 4th, and we didn't have an episode the week of May the 4th. We didn't get a May the 4th be with you.
Yeah.
I didn't get to say that to you.
May the 4th.
Yeah, right. May the 4th be with you.
Drove my coworkers crazy.
Oh my gosh! Did you say to all the customers?
A few.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I work, in a frame shop and everything.
Right.
And half the frame shop, well, I'd say more than half. I think we only have one framer in the shop that hasn't seen Star Wars, and it will happen.
I spent the whole day watching. I got through every movie but The Force Awakens.
I watched my favorite.
Really?
I watched Empire.
That's...
Empire has always been my favorite as a kid. Of course, when I first saw the films, again, I'm a Boba Fett fan, and when I first see that, Vader's, no disintegrations. There's a reason he's telling this guy, no disintegrations, and then later.
Oh, the Lars Homestead rip. Too soon, man. Too soon.
I love that theory. We need to do a theory segment because it makes so much sense. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, look it up. There is a theory that Boba Fett is responsible for Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru.
I buy it. I buy it.
Totally sold on
I buy it. Okay, so the whole point of bringing up May the 4th, since we're a week late on it, is because Rian Johnson definitely won the internet that day. His May the 4th to the fans was with none other than John Williams as they're composing the music. And I got to think, just like we said, he wins. How cool is that to see not just Rian with John Williams, but they're there with the London Symphony Orchestra. They are right now trying to finish the score of this movie, and we talk about the score a lot because it's the first time where the score is going to be completed before the movie. Rian Johnson wants to edit the scenes to the completed pieces, which has never been done before. That in itself could be a topic where it revolutionizes how movies are made, but just what is your reaction to seeing those two people in the same video on May the 4th?
I'm excited about it. For one, Rian is just fantastic. He is a fantastic personality. The fact that he stood in line at Celebration
for like 4+ hours.
He wanted to buy them pizza.
They wouldn't let him.
They wouldn't let him. But I mean, I think the interesting thing is that, and this will be great for after the fact, but he takes a camera everywhere he goes. He takes pictures. So I think at some point we'll see a lot of behind the scenes photographs. And from a prop builder standpoint, getting some of those shots of those props and those costumes, it's a dream.
I think we've seen 2 of those photos he's posted on Instagram.
Yes.
And it's from when he was on stage, and what he's doing is he'll post the video, like the photo taken from the audience perspective in color, and then he finds the exact moment that he took his black and white photo. And it's just really cool because you're literally experiencing it through his eye.
Yeah.
And that's incredible because I think what he's going to do for this new trilogy is exactly what Gareth Edwards did for the standalones, with just his eye and his attention to detail of giving you that Star Wars feel, which is, I think, different than like giving you the Star Wars aesthetic. He's making it feel like Star Wars, and how connected he is with the fans. For me, I'm a lot more comforted moving forward with this new trilogy. You know.
Well, and that's the great thing about anybody that's actually working on anything Star Wars right now. Dave Filoni, for example.
God, Filoni is we kneel at his altar.
We could do a whole podcast on Dave.
The guy, yeah, he's legit.
But I mean, he's doing so much for the lore and the canon. It's fantastic.
Well,
his love for the costuming groups.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the great thing, just in general, about Kathleen Kennedy, Dave, Rian, Abrams. They all love the costuming groups, and me being a cosplayer, it's one of those things where when I put on my own armor and everything, he becomes the character. I mean that's the thing, is you take on a swag, and everything, and you can only imagine being on one of these sets in these movies.
You know what we need to do?
In the background. We
need to make sure we get a photo of you on our Instagram tonight, and that way everyone can see you in your armor, because his armor is legit. I'm gonna brag about him for a second. His Mandalorian armor is so cool, and if I could just hold that blaster one time. I'll bring it. Can we just have it as our centerpiece? We don't have anything for the desk yet, and I feel like if you had a blaster right here, that would be pretty.
Yeah, it's we could do a whole segment on cosplay, which would be great, because I can't do that. Anybody can do it.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter your body build, your skill level. I didn't know anything about this, and that's what really is researching. And then when you see some of these behind-the-scenes photos, you go, I just did that.
Yeah.
And you really feel a little bit more connected to the universe.
And that's a good moment to bring up that we are going to be doing Cosplayer of the Month here on Beyond the Blast Doors. We're asking everyone to submit their photos and give us a quick bio to explain how you got into cosplay, why you like it, who's your favorite character. Send us your best shot. You can either send that to us on our Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, or you can email us at beyondtheblastdoors@gmail.com. I feel like that was a great time for a shameless plug.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a great time.
It was a good time.
Okay, so May the 4th, we love Ryan, we love John Williams. Our last topic for real news is Mark Hamill is the greatest human being on the planet Earth, because within the last 2 weeks, he made a guest appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Jimmy was out, they had a guest host, and they were able to pull off a great prank on Adam Scott, who's a very talented actor. But they were able to bring in Mark Hamill, and Mark surprised him. Adam Scott was talking about how big of a fan he is of Mark Hamill, and when he came from behind the door, I mean, Adams just started swearing a lot. They had to cover up a lot of what he was saying, but it was an incredible moment. And then you see that Amaze video that came out a few weeks ago, where Mark is just surprising a bunch of super fans. He might be the greatest person on the planet just because he gets what it means to so many fans, he gives it back.
He is having so much fun with the franchise. He's had a lot of success from it. But I mean, just even with the Force Awakens, I got a kick out of him putting the trooper armor on.
Oh my gosh, from about a year ago,
trooper armor on, and going around and talking to people and everything, and even the Force for Change. Which I believe it's now closed as far as the contest goes, but the contest is you could donate a sum of money, and you had a chance to win a trip to the red carpet premiere for The Last Jedi, a trip to Skywalker Ranch, and he was even throwing in a lunch or dinner.
Yeah, that's what he was doing right now. Yeah,
so it's one of those things where it's really a testament just to his how humble he is. It's you can meet most celebrities are normal human beings.
Yeah.
But there's a few that they place themselves high up. But Mark is not one of those people. He's right there, the same level as you, and he loves meeting the fans.
Right.
And everything.
And that's so true.
Doing these small things for people.
And he's so great. If you haven't already, I want you to take your chance. Go on Twitter right now and tweet at Mark Hamill. I mean, whatever you want. I mean, I would ask you to be polite, but
Yeah,
he will
definitely.
respond to you. I was doing something for work, and I came across an actual prop from A New Hope. It was the Skywalker saber hilt. A collector had it, and he let me look at it, and I took a photo with it. I tweeted at Mark and was like, "Hey, have you seen this lately?" And he tweeted back, he's like, "I haven't seen that in 30 years." And I was just so caught off guard because it's like for that moment, Mark Hamill had to try and pronounce my last name, which was awesome. But you know, who's
this guy David? Why does he have my lightsaber?
exactly.
You know?
He will. He's awesome. He will respond to you, and he does that for thousands of fans on the daily. He brings a lot of joy. I think it's safe to say to both of our lives at some point.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, the films. I was the awkward, nerdy kid. I didn't have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
But when I got off, from school, I went home, and I tell you, it was
Threw in the VHS. Yeah.
I'm surprised. That they still work. Because I watched them that many times. But for me, it was one of those things where it was a happy place.
Mm-hmm.
That as a child, I was able to escape, and still able to escape, and everything. And the inspiration. Back to just cosplay. There's thousands of people cosplaying Star Wars characters, and they get that inspiration to be their favorite character just simply by watching the movies or reading the books. They love, I went through all the cosplay videos for Celebration. And my favorite one was somebody did old Luke.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, he really does look like, Luke Skywalker, and he did a really great job on the hand and everything, and it's just, and he loves seeing that. Mark is just, he loves seeing that stuff, and it might surprise you, it could be the highlight of your day, just tweet out, and he might have, he's very witty.
Yeah.
So expect potentially a witty comeback.
On the record, I have never met Mark, but if this somehow gets into Mark's hands, the email is beyondtheblastdoors@gmail.com, and I will send you my no, I'm just kidding. But no, if you really wanted to hang out and get coffee, I would be down.
Yeah,
Quincy, Illinois is a great town for a cup of coffee. I think you said it perfectly. I think that's going to do it for Real News. The end of our first official segment on the first episode of our official podcast. That is a sense of accomplishment, and I'm going to give a round of applause to that.
Definitely.
Let's go ahead and go to our next segment. We're going to throw it up on the screen. It's called Pages and Panels, and this is where we're going to dive into the canon. And we're going to have to, we're going to have to add in video games to this somehow, but we're going to first talk about Star Wars Guardians of the Whills. This was a book that came out within the last 10 days, written by Greg Rucka, who's done some really great work in the comic book world of things. But this is a book that takes a look at Baze and Chirrut from Rogue One. Yep. And these are two characters that we wanted to learn a lot about, and we're going to do a review eventually where we're going to break down the book and kind of explain, basic, here's where it starts, here's where it ends, and then our thoughts on it. But just in this moment, we have the book. We haven't been able to crack it open yet. Yeah. What are you hoping you learn?
What I'm hoping for, obviously, when you watch Rogue One, you can tell that Chirrut is some sort of Force sensitive. Without a doubt, he does have a connection to the Force. Mm-hmm. Maybe not on the level of a trained Jedi, mm-hmm. But obviously, it's almost got a very religious tone to it.
Absolutely,
you get that impression even just from
the guarding the temple, right?
Yeah. But at the same time, you can tell that those two characters are bonded together. So it'd be really interesting to see if this book dives into, were they always like that, or was that something that they had to work at? Is there something that happened that actually finally did bring them into friendship and everything?
Yeah. I think for me, what I'm most interested in seeing is Baze and his foundation, because something had to have happened to get him to be so disenchanted with the Force at the beginning of that movie. Because we talk about, in that movie, we learn that he was once one of the greatest of the Guardians, and then something happened. And what is that something?
But at the same time, if you've watched Rogue One, you know that Baze, he's not a young man. You know that he's probably somewhere ranging between, maybe his mid-30s to maybe even the 50s.
Hey, dude, when I'm in my 30s, I'm hoping people are still thinking I'm young.
So, but the thing is, he's old enough to potentially remember Order 66.
Oh, okay, good point. Yeah.
And possibly even Chirrut as well. they may have been around to see, this purge against the Jedi Order. Potentially the loss of friends. I mean, they're old enough to remember even the Clone Wars as well, and it's a very brutal conflict across the whole galaxy. So it's with any great struggle, it does put people in special circumstances that sometimes they don't they may have gotten out of it alive,
Yeah.
but they're scarred.
I'm excited to see if there. What was the? I feel like there's going to be some moment of great sacrifice between the two that forces these two to be connected, and maybe Chirrut wasn't always blind. Maybe Bazin had to take care of him the way he did in Rogue One. Maybe that's like the thing. I mean, you can speculate on that even, but whatever happens in this book, and we're going to crack the pages here in the next day. I hope that on this journey, though, it just pays off, because what Disney has done well in all of the canon books, as far as I'm concerned, is done a great job of organizing the canon, making it easy to consume, but then like you get paid off every time you read a new book, because you learn something new that connects to some other book. And Catalyst was so tremendously done. I thoroughly enjoyed the novelization of Rogue One. I'm gonna read this book, and it's not a true novel, it's not a true canon novel, it's a young reader thing, but I know that when I get done with this book, it's gonna pay off time and time again. And I just credit the Disney storytelling team, because they're doing one hell of a job. I'd say Disney, it's the Lucasfilm storytelling team.
Well, yeah, you make a very great point. I mean, some of it is geared, as you said, potentially more towards children. But you could argue the same thing about Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels.
Two series that are meant for the kids, but those are adult. It's adult content too.
Yes, exactly. But those link together, very well and everything. And like David, I have this book. My girlfriend got it for me. I haven't had time to crack it open and start reading it. But I know as soon as I do, the next day at work will be a very long day, because I'll be up all night probably reading it. So, well,
the reason why we aren't reading the book right now, and this goes into our next topic here, is the fact that Thrawn, the novel by Timothy Zahn, it's he's written multiple Thrawn books and multiple Star Wars books, but those are part of the EU. This book I'm almost done with. And I've got to say, it is an incredible ride. I love the inner monologue you get each chapter with Thrawn. You get to know this character intimately. And we're not going to spoil it for you here again. That's going to be its own separate review. Plans to do that. But as someone who's a fan of Thrawn, you studied the character from the EU books. You've seen him on Rebels. You're about to crack the cover on this book too. What are your thoughts about how they've reintroduced Thrawn so far in this new canon?
Well, it's, again, credit to Dave Filoni for rescuing this character, because when Disney acquired the franchise, all the Expanded Universe books were thrown into limbo. And the original trilogy that Timothy wrote, it took place after Return of the Jedi. And that was, of course, where all our new films are, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and so forth. So you knew that was all going to change. You knew that characters were going to disappear. So I thought it was really great for them to bring him back and place him in a different time period where that's very similar. It's because the galaxy's in a transition phase. Basically, we're going from a republic to an empire.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the original books, we're going from the Empire to the New Republic. So I kind of find it funny that he's been brought back into, these parts of the story where it's a tough moment in the galaxy, because, now the Empire's, trying to set order and everything. They're still hunting down Jedi. They're dealing with the rebellion now.
But it makes so much sense, though, now. Because, like you mentioned, in the EU, he doesn't come around until after Return of the Jedi. Many fans think that the Thrawn trilogy that Zahn wrote all the way back in the 90s, that should be like that should have been 7, 8, and 9. Because people love those books so much. They were that good. But I think it makes sense to bring him in this early, especially because you get through like the first 3 chapters, and he names drop. There's a name drop that'll blow your mind. I'm not going to ruin it for you. We don't have the spoiler. If we had the spoiler graphic, we would throw that up right now, and I would divulge all this, because I love the name drop hint, the chosen one. But Thrawn being cultivated right here as the Empire is first rising. And you've read the Aftermath trilogy.
Yes.
So I really think that there is something with this unknown space, these unknown regions in space. I've got a feeling that you're going to see Thrawn not die at the end of this book. You're not going to see Thrawn die at the end of Rebels Season 4, which that is definitely a whole another episode. I think we're going to see him get...
on the edge of my seat.
I want them to send him away. Send him away on some mission. I think Palpatine's going to send him on some mission, and I think they're going to keep him alive to bring him back, or come back around, maybe in 9.
In some capacity.
I would
like
that
to see him.
That would be so cool.
Be referenced, in one of the live action films,
because he's canon. Like, he's canon. He's not going anywhere. He's in it now, so it's like it makes sense. Bring this character to the screen, and I think that's how they do it. And so far, like I said, I'm 3/4 through this book, and I think it's an incredible foundation. It gives you the history of this character, and it really makes. I went back and watched season 3 of Rebels, and I really. It's not like I admired the character more, but I had a far more appreciation for him because. You kind of have to like unlearn. It's like what Yoda says. You have to unlearn what you've learned about everything you did in EU, and you're now learning this new canon version of Thrawn. Very similar. I mean, you can make the argument that it's like identical.
And this is happening all over right now.
All over.
With Rogue One, it rewrote. I mean, you had the Dark Forces video games, and for a long time it was considered that all the LucasArts video games were considered canon.
Yeah. Well, the EU was just crazy in the first place with 7 different rings of credibility.
Yes,
that was garbage. How do you keep track of that?
But for those that aren't familiar with the Dark Forces games, it detailed the character Kyle Katarn, who was responsible for stealing the plans for the first Death Star. Obviously, with Rogue One, spoilers again, obviously that's not the case. He wasn't involved with that. So I kind of feel like that character is now gone for the time being. So, and that was, my great fear was when Disney acquired everything, it was, what's going to happen to some of my favorite characters? I liked Thrawn, but there's multiple other characters, though, in that universe that, that are missing. Corran Horn and everything.
Right. Well, and it's like the storytelling group is
sensitive, but also a fighter pilot.
But it's like the storytelling group has said though before. It's those stories still exist. They're just not canon. So I mean,
exactly.
You can still have the thrills. It just kind of stings, like you said, as a fan who invested the time to learn about the character and follow along. They're kind of over here. They're in timeout.
Their story team is fantastic because, in some ways, they're bringing the best parts of those books back, little by little.
Thrawn was such a great gift to the fans.
I was bitter at first, but now I appreciate it because it did get to a point to where some of those expanded universe books were very far-fetched. They didn't really make sense.
They killed Chewbacca by sending a moon into his body.
Yeah, they crushed him with a moon.
That's when the EU was meant to die, and it did. Thank you, Disney.
Yes.
Thank you, Lucasfilm. We appreciate it.
Exactly. That was the point to where it was now at a point where it was like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're being serious. I mean, like, you're exactly right. It was the point where you couldn't believe it. In this galaxy where there's a force, where there's incredible spaceships, it just got too ridiculous. And like we mentioned earlier, from an organization standpoint, you didn't know what you could really trust because there were so many rings of credibility built in that ultimately, basically what this conversation is about is it's a great time to be a fan because everybody had to hit restart at the same time.
Yes.
And so whether you're into the books, whether you're into the comics, this is the best time for us to be alive as Star Wars fans because we're all getting to experience it at the same time together. And it's so well organized that, your son, my kids, your kids, they're going to be able to jump into this universe and it's going to be all laid out for them. You can start here, here, and here, and then these are the crossover stories. And I think it's better for it.
The books in general, I mean, that have been coming out. I mean, the Aftermath trilogy is just absolutely, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Mainly because it tells you what happened, after Return of the
First
Jedi.
one was rough, but they definitely, Chuck Wendig found himself and laughed at.
But there's an interlude chapter in that first book that, again, makes me really excited. It involves a sandcrawler, maybe some Mandalorian armor.
Okay, well, yeah, that's...
Okay, so we'll just leave it there at that.
What a Mandalorian of you.
I am. I'm just
You addict.
I'm an addict about and that's again Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah.
You know, the teaser trailer for this next season.
Which you can also find right now on our YouTube channel.
Again, yeah, it's watch it. You know, but there's just so much there that's being added and everything, and even just that, the word Mandalorian. I mean, it's not mentioned in the original trilogy at all. You know, we owe so much to Dave Filoni because he's really expanded the lore. He's brought all the stuff that we love, that we grew up loving, you know, that was unofficial, and now that's like an official, you know, word.
Yeah.
And everything.
It's pretty cool. Let's go to our next topic because it's kind of what we touched. Well, we kind of alluded to it with the comics in canon too. Is there's a new Vader comic that's about to drop in June, and this is being described as a year one Vader comic, kind of like how we had Batman year one, Vader year one, and the writer Charles Soule actually did an interview with StarWars.com, and he's talking about this is where you're going to see the beginnings of a young Darth Vader. You're going to see how he built his lightsaber. You're going to see his rise in the Empire and more. And so, because neither one of us have been able to take a look at this comic yet because it hasn't come out until June, what do you hope that more is? What do you want to see of a young Darth Vader? Because this comic, the first issue, the very first panel, is the same end scene that we see at the end of Revenge of the Sith, where it's Vader crossing his arms next to Palpatine, staring out at that skeleton Death Star.
Well, it's... Again, we've got a huge time period here to deal with between Revenge of the Sith and since, you know, we last saw him in Rogue One, you know, slicing down the hallway, which was fantastic. Yeah. You can find that scene on YouTube. But it's a very interesting time frame because, especially if we're looking at year one, you know, where, you know, Darth Vader is Darth Vader, but inside he's still Anakin. You know, so what kind of turmoil is he going through physically? You know, I mean, just because I mean, he lost some limbs. We know this.
Yeah, like
so
3.
There has to be some sort of therapy of some kind. We know he was badly burned.
Well, we got to see him in that back to tank in Rogue One.
Yeah. So, and that's the other thing. There is even in Rogue One, he is still dealing with the after effects of his duel with Obi-Wan on Mustafar. So, I mean, that's just a testament to the physical pain that he's probably gone through, but the mental pain, the loss of Padme, probably the constant dwelling of, what did I do wrong? I thought I could save her, kind of thing. So it'd be very interesting on that, maybe not so much anger towards people around him, but more his anger, his hate is fueled at himself. He hates himself. You know, especially now. I mean, his humanity is basically gone. He's, you know, as Obi-Wan describes him, he's more machine than man. You know, so that's what I would like to see.
Yeah.
How does he adjust to his artificial limbs?
And we know that he's in pain because if you read Lords of the Sith, which one of the first and maybe the best new canon novel is, you know, he's in constant pain. He's in that meditation chamber. He's trying to do back to. He is miserable, and he's still struggling with the loss of Padme.
Yeah, it's just I don't really know how to describe it because, you know, I'm a very avid reader of all, you know, genres and everything, and you know, it's a testament just to the character on itself because, and then. You can say what you want about the prequel movies, but you do get an element of, especially with at least episode 2, if you watch the Clone Wars, and then into episode 3, the struggle that he was already dealing with, and then this happens to him. You know, the feeling of utter loss. There's nothing else for him. He doesn't see himself as Anakin Skywalker.
Absolutely,
anymore.
He's Darth Vader.
He is Darth Vader,
and that's what I'm most interested in seeing is his relationship with Emperor, because we've seen a little bit with Lords of the Sith when they're trying to take on Cham Syndulla and the rebels there. You're seeing that relationship and how manipulative he is, and we know in the original I don't want to say the original, but the first Vader comic series we've gotten in this new canon, we know that the Emperor is really disappointed with Vader after A New Hope. That he blames the destruction of the first Death Star partially on Vader, and here is Vader again having to regain the confidence of the Emperor. And I think Palpatine, for lack of a better term, is a little salty in the fact that he thought he was going to get Prime Anakin Skywalker, and his plan went a little south.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan sliced him up like you mentioned, and so now he's got this like cyborg. And now some would say that maybe that pain that Anakin has because of all the cybernetics actually makes him stronger. I don't want to get into that, but I think it will be interesting to see the dynamic between these two, especially because we know of where their starting point is. You're going to immediately get Palpatine Vader.
And that's an interesting point too. Is when this happens to Anakin, he's relatively a young man. You can assume that he's in his
mid-20s,
late 20s. When he's basically cut down in his prime.
Yeah.
So the big question is really how agile is he? We really don't know, because when we first saw Vader, it's been 20 years. He doesn't really seem to be running around. It's not this fast-paced combat that was the standard in the prequel films. So that's some of my questions is it's a therapy thing. How has his fighting style changed with a lightsaber? At the end of Revenge of the Sith, he learns that Padme, has died.
Well, we know that
he crushes the whole room with the Force.
If you look,
there's that creepy grin.
There is.
That Palpatine is.
But if you look at Rogue One, that end scene hallway, you know how the cybernetics affect his fighting. It's a lot more rigid. It's not fluid, but he's destroying everyone in his path.
There's brutality.
There is.
With it there. So it'd be interesting to see how he adapted and came to that point.
It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool, right? No matter what.
It's just. I think it. I'd like to see again. I love gritty stories. I am not a fan of your happy ending fairy tales because that's not life. In my mind, there's happy moments, but there's also sad moments and everything. And that's what I loved about Rogue One is that some good happened,
right?
But some bad happened with it.
It was necessary.
Yes,
absolutely necessary.
So I'd love to see that translate and more into the books, more into the comics. We're already seeing that with the cartoon series and everything. So keep up the good work. The story, writers and everything.
Sounds good.
That's what the true fans
absolutely
are really looking for, is that they want a plausible and realistic viewpoint, on this saga.
Absolutely. All right, that's going to do it for Pages and Panels. That was pretty awesome. That's the second segment of the first episode.
Yes.
We're just
flying through it.
We're just check marking everything right now. Our next segment is called Stay on Target, and we got this really cool graphic we're going to show you now if you're watching online. Because what we're going to do is, this is kind of like a buy or sell, but it's also, let's take the controversies, the theories going on right now that are popular now, and let's just evaluate them, how much credibility we think they actually have. We don't have insider information on the three topics we're going to be talking today. Purely speculation, our speculation. We're really speculating the speculation. That's what we're doing here. We stay on target. So the first thing that we have on our list is the fact that there was a story that came about a couple weeks ago, and it was taking a look at Star Wars fashion, and not the sense of, does this look like it fits in the Star Wars world, but it was taking a look at Kylo Ren and the new images that we're seeing of him for Episode 8, and some are saying that he's wearing Vader's cloak. And then people are looking at Luke Skywalker and his photography for Episode 8, and they're thinking the chain around his neck could be Vader's. Let's just keep it right there on those two topics. Is that even possible?
Well, we got to look at what happened at the end of Return of the Jedi. Luke, drags his father's body onto the shuttle, and then he cremates the body.
Right.
Okay,
and we see him in the armor, like we're seeing the flame coming out of the helmet.
Yes, I mean, and even in Force Awakens, we see the helmet. It's charred, it's melted, and that was more of a solid piece. It was armor. So The cloak, I'm not too sure on this, simply because I like to think that potentially that cloak would be, if there's anything left, I don't know if it would be wearable.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it plays in with the Aftermath books, because in the Aftermath books, you learn that there's a group seeking Sith artifacts, and that of, Vader himself. So it is plausible. I'm not saying that it's not, possible, but again, you got to look at the Star Wars universe.
Right.
They have access to resources, materials that, in our world, you put a piece of cloth on a fire, it would eventually burn, and you might have a few scraps of it left. But so yes, it's possible that it could be the cloak. I could see the chain being a little bit, because it's a chain, it's metal.
I think it's all stupid.
But I think it's too much speculation.
That's exactly my problem. I think
there's other stories taking place outside of the movies, building up to this movie, that somewhat contradict these theories. And that's what I was talking about earlier. I mean, if you watch the latest season of Rebels concerning Darth Maul, if you saw that, not even 2 days after that episode aired, there was a theory about Snoke being Maul.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, you just posted this online, and it's no longer possible.
Yeah, that's why I think this is ridiculous. To me, this is the problem with Force Awakens. Force Awakens was the biggest package of fan fiction ever, and I think it's ridiculous that this would even be a theory. I mean, it's not official, so you don't want to invest too much frustration in it. I don't need Kylo wearing the cloak. I don't need Luke wearing the chain. I think that's ridiculous. The one cool thing that I have heard about what could be coming back is Vader's red lightsaber crystal, the Kyber crystal, and we know that the saber is still in existence because you get it alluded to in the first Chuck Wendig book in the Aftermath trilogy.
And that's the interesting thing that about the Kyber crystals. If you're a Star Wars fan, that you know that these crystals are used in lightsabers. They're like the source of power. But there's some speculation about the nature of these crystals, because is it the individual's connection to the Force that determines the color of this blade?
Well, in Clone Wars, they confirmed that. That is the individual, that the crystal is pure, it's clear, and then it changes colors towards that person, and the Sith have to bleed the crystal to turn it red. That's confirmed to canon.
Yes, and if you've read the Ahsoka book, it kind of alludes to that as well, because
she bleeds them back. She purifies them.
These crystals. Mm-hmm. So, so there's
those pesky Inquisitors. Jerks.
Obviously, there's some sort of connection between the Force and the crystal. But by itself, though, to me, it's just a crystal. I don't think it really would have any significance.
Why would Luke why would he want that Kyber crystal? What would be the significance of having it?
Well, in the expanded universe, you can actually connect this to actual real-world thinking. In early religions, they used to collect artifacts because they believed it increased. You forgive the criticism that they were made them more holy within their respective religions. And in the expanded universe, some of this is kind of the same thing with this lightsaber belonged to Zar Kun, who's from the Old Republic, era and everything, and he was a powerful Sith Lord. So his essence is tied to that item and everything, and that would, make you more powerful in the Force. So if the thing is now that that's kind of changed with the EU being up in the air, it's not official, kind of thing. So at this point, I don't think there would be any purpose to having that, other than, at least from Kylo's perspective, trying to imitate Vader. Because Vader was, you were afraid of him.
Right.
He was somebody to fear.
Right.
And everything. So there is that element there of, a stigma, a fear of the unknown.
I don't think this is going to turn into anything. this is all the rumor mill. This is all the rumor
Yes,
mill, and I don't
it's-
need Luke to have the crystal. I think it would make more sense that if Kylo had found Vader's hilt, and if it is a Knight of Ren who finds it in the Aftermath novel, I can see him getting it back. But we also know that it would make sense for Kylo to have that either because he has a synthetic that he's got inside his lightsaber.
Well, and that's the interesting point. If Kylo had Vader's lightsaber,
He'd be using it.
I think he'd be using it. I mean, he was, that saber belongs to me. When he sees Anakin's,
Blue hilt, yeah.
blue lightsaber. And then, the interesting thing there, though, again, if this is where it gets tricky, is because, well, I mean, technically Anakin went to the dark side when he still had the blue lightsaber. So why didn't the crystal change?
There's probably a technicality there. I would imagine it'd be something with he wasn't able to extract it from the saber or something, like it was safe inside the hilt or something. That'd be my assumption.
Like that, But
if you have a better answer, comment below this video and tell us.
If you guys have, better theory or a thought on it, because there are loopholes. But
right.
In terms of when I see this stuff, I don't mind reading some of it, but some of it I've just like, this is what I call clickbait.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to get the views.
Right.
And everything.
Well, let's stay on theme with our theme. The segment, stay on target. So, just yes or no. Do you want to see these things actually happen, or no, you don't?
I'm okay with Kylo having some Vader artifacts.
Yeah.
Do I need it? No.
Okay.
He didn't really have it in Force Awakens, and aside from some of his temper tantrums, I thought he was a great character.
Yeah, absolutely. He was maybe the best.
So, again, I don't necessarily need him to have, or Luke to have these items, for these movies to be great.
Sounds good. Neither do I. We're in totally agreement.
Yes.
Let's go to the next topic, which is Benicio del Toro. What is his role in Episode 8? There's been a lot of speculation whether he's a Sith,
Tons of
bounty hunter, maybe he's nobody, maybe he's Ezra Bridger from Rebels. I would not want that, but a lot of people are pulling for it. We actually have a possible theory, and this is from MakingStarWars.com, which they're very accurate. Before I give this, because Jesse hasn't seen this one, you have a theory of who Del Toro is playing, and who do you think it is?
I've read a lot. For one, I love Del Toro.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm leaning towards two theories.
Okay.
And you're gonna hate me for this.
All right.
But part of me, I'm okay with him possibly being Ezra Bridger.
Okay. I can forgive you.
Because
it wouldn't be the worst thing, I guess.
It wouldn't necessarily. Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing because we don't know what's going to happen with Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if you watch Rebels, you know that character is dealing with
a lot of internal conflict.
A lot of internal conflict. So it's very interesting. Now, the details behind that theory concerning Sabine and everything, because Sabine Wren, Knights of Ren, I disagree.
They're not even spelled the same.
I disagree with that.
Not even spelled the
Not
same.
even spelled the same.
It's just a good name.
But
it's like Smith, right?
The possibility of, yes, this could be Ezra Bridger is great. However, though, giving a time period, my favorite one is that he's possibly Boba Fett's son.
Oh.
Okay. And the reason for it...
You know what the sound... That's the sound of the universe just shrinking even more and more.
Yes.
How many more generations do we... Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm not trying to...
The thing is I'm kind of just going off the physical attributes of the actors that we've seen so far. And Tamora Morrison, obviously, it was Jango Fett. He played the clones and everything, and then you had Daniel Logan. And if you look at them, they all kind of have similar physical appearance. They've got the tan skin, the dark hair, and everything. And Del Toro has that appearance too. Mm-hmm. So, granted, the time frame, he would make a fantastic, older, Fett-related individual. And what's been, has been said is that, he's been described as a slimy character that likes fancy, but he's also, there's a theory that he could be, again, a Sith of some kind or another Knight of Ren.
It sounds like when you're talking about the slimy and the dirty, it sounds like there's I was saying, making Star Wars came out with a story that he's going to be playing a character or a figure named DJ. And now we don't know if DJ is the initials or if that's a character. And you said,
we know that the franchise uses a lot of code names.
Right.
Blue Harvest, for example.
Red Cup.
Yeah. So it's possible. I mean, they're trying to stay tight-lipped. They don't want spoilers. They don't want actual plot lines getting leaked before the movie comes out.
It'll be curious to see what he is, though, because this article really makes it sound like he could be almost like a caretaker of a casino or like a cantina. Yeah. But what I find interesting is he keeps being described as this dark individual wearing a billless cap. He wears a lot of black, wears a trench coat. But the Resistance does not view him as a bad guy. And again, we can't even confirm yet who he is. But if these are true, accurate details of who this character is, maybe he's could he be like a double informant? That'd be kind of cool.
There's that possibility. We know that the Rebellion used spies, as we just saw with Rogue One.
Right.
At the same time, even with the Force Awakens and the in Maz's palace, we know that the First Order and the rebels, they've got spies in the cantina. You got two different people basically getting up and reporting to their respective parties, and that's the thing. Again, that a lot of people just see the war and everything, but Star Wars is a much bigger place and everything, and that's
absolutely.
When you dive into everything else, the comics, the books, the video games, you learn about the underworld criminals, the Hutts, in the expanded universe you had the Black Sun, which is gangsters and everything. So for me, this is somebody who's probably involved in that underworld. If that's true, again, it's all speculation at this point. We're not going to know until obviously we see the movie, and this could just simply be them throwing people, keeping people off the trail. And if that's the case, they're doing a great job about it. But again, my personal favorite theories are that he's possibly Ezra Bridger, because of his likeness and appearance.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that it's plausible that he could be, Boba Fett's son, which would be great in the long run just for the fans, because it's a continuation of the Fett line and everything. And considering that character, I mean, for me, he lives, but it hasn't actually just been outright said
right
that yes, Boba Fett survived Return of the Jedi.
And maybe one day we will get that confirmation.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll get that confirmation. I'm going to hope that he's a Sith. I think that'd be great. I think it's a big mistake in The Last Jedi if it really is The Last Jedi. And this is not on here, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I don't think if they're really going to end the Jedi Order and there's no Sith in the story, whatever becomes the next group is not going to be called the Grey Jedi. I think it is so idiotic how so many people are like, oh, the Grey, it's going to be the Grey Jedi. Listen, if it's the end, it's the Last Jedi, there's not going to be a Grey Jedi. Jedi is not going to be a word anymore. And so my hope is we're all wrong, and Luke's going to come back and actually make Rey the next Jedi.
The name, I mean, there's plenty of examples in the EU of, a Grey Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Darth Revan from the Old Republic era.
Well, even if you just say, let's say, keep it just in canon. We know that Ahsoka has been called a Grey Jedi,
yes,
but that already exists. I think there's going to be something new. And I don't know if it's going to be the Order of the Bendu, because they're the ones in the middle that we learn about in Rebels. Mm-hmm. I think Jedi's going to be a term, if they're going to do it the way they're teasing it, I think the term Jedi is extinct by the end of Episode 9.
But at the same time, though, it could be... maybe he just wants to end the Jedi Order, not so much we'll continue to use the word Jedi, not so much that okay, you're not going to see anybody using a lightsaber using the Force anymore.
You gotta have lightsabers in Star Wars, right? Like that's a prerequisite.
Yeah, but the thing is if you look at Anakin's own story, okay, the Jedi were not allowed to marry. Okay, a lot of his frustration, a lot of the problems that came about for him, he wasn't able to seek help, from Obi-Wan or Yoda or Mace Windu because he was hiding his relationship with Padme, you know.
But I wonder if Luke changes it,
So
like, because we know that Luke dabbles in the dark side already. Like,
well, that's the thing. Luke isn't a traditional Jedi,
and that's why he's great.
And that's the thing is.
I wish we could have seen that in Episode 7.
Potentially, he may have learned, of everything that built up to Order 66, what caused it, because it's one of those things. Is what if Anakin hadn't turned to the dark side? What would have happened? In the books and everything, they allude to bring balance to the Force.
Right.
Is it possible that the Force is still unbalanced at this point in history? I mean, obviously, something terrible has happened for Ben Solo, or Kylo Ren for Ben to become Kylo. There had to be something that caused that downfall.
Yeah, and like when you're talking about the imbalance too, like I think back to in season 3 of Rebels when you see Ben Kenobi after he gets Maul. Again, we don't have a spoiler graphic, but I'm hoping you've seen that by now. Ben thinks and tells Maul, like in his dying moment, he thinks that Luke is the chosen one. Like the source of balance keeps changing. I love how the storytelling group is playing with that. That could be fascinating.
It's a question of timing.
I hope it's not a thing where like Ben's like they redeem Kylo and he brings balance. That would be the worst cop out ever. He's killed Han Solo. He needs to be a baddie and he needs to stay bad and be killed off as a villain. That's just me.
I actually agree with that. I know a lot of people are like, I'd like to see him, return to.
We've already seen that. We've seen Anakin come back.
How do you come back from killing your own father?
How do you come back from killing off Harrison Ford?
Yeah.
Like, and this isn't to be rude, but like, do you ever think? And this is a complete tangent. Do you think Disney was like, damn, maybe Leia should have gone in Episode 7? Like, not trying to be like insensitive to Carrie Fisher's death, but like maybe we killed off the wrong one.
Well, I mean, obviously, life happens.
Well, right.
And everything, and I am happy at the fact that she did finish filming for this next movie.
Yeah, it sounds like even some of the stuff that they were planning for 9, they actually brought into 8.
I've actually talked about this with with other friends and everything. For me, I'm actually okay if they do kill her off in this next movie. Again, things happen, and that they're fighting a war now. I mean, the First Order just blew up a bunch of planets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Starkiller Base is gone.
Oh, the greatest example of fan fiction in that movie.
They wiped out, numerous whole planets with, like one shot.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, the galaxy in itself has just been thrown into turmoil, which is interesting because now the ruling body just got blown up.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that kind of plays back into Del Toro's character here, where it's possible that he's some sort of underworld individual, and it makes you wonder, well, has the underworld kind of risen up right now because of all the chaos taking place in the galaxy? You don't have the Jedi. There is no Jedi Order. Luke disappeared for years and everything. Yes, you have Force sensitives running around, and then you've got these Knights of Ren, which is yet to be determined, like where exactly they came from. If you read the Aftermath books, you get some hints of potentially of their origins and everything. But are they true Sith? And that's the interesting thing here is, again, the balance. Are there's the rule of 2 has been something that's been in the expanded universe, master and apprentice as far as the Sith Lords.
Oh, we had that in Phantom Menace. That's canon, yeah.
That's canon. So, and because basically Vader and Palpatine were the last Sith that we knew of. Right. And then suddenly, well, now we've got somebody who's fallen to the dark side. Ben Solo has fallen to the dark side and become, Kylo Ren. And we know that there are other Force sensitives in the galaxy, and if you read these books, you know that the Empire has gone beyond, the known charted, territories and everything. So who knows what's out there? Who knows what was sitting out there? And that's why I strongly recommend that people either get an audiobook of these books, because some of them are actually really fantastic.
I think there hasn't been okay, Hair to the Jedi, that was a terrible book.
Yeah.
But all the rest of the canon novels have been good.
The Ahsoka one is fantastic.
Lost Stars, though, is my favorite still.
But
we need to, you know what we need to do? We need to do a top 10 video where we break down our top 10 new canon novels. I think that'd be really helpful, especially for someone just getting involved. Maybe you're watching this and you're not into reading or reading the new canon books. It's definitely worth your time. We'll do that. I think we'll do a top 10 novel video in the upcoming weeks here. It's summer vacation, right? So we've got time. Plenty of time. But and like we both just talked about, there's so much out there to explore, and that's what you're able to do with the canon novels. That's what you're able to do with the comics. That's what you're able to do with the movies. And like we said earlier, a great time to be a fan. And Jesse, that's all we've got.
Yeah,
that's all we've got for the first episode. It's cool to be here. We mentioned at the beginning of the episode how we kind of met, and what we're really hoping to do is do a weekly podcast where it's myself and Jesse and hopefully a couple more people who join us. And
we have quite a few other scoundrels running around the Midwest here.
So. It's funny because it's like, yeah, you live in the Midwest. It's like, yeah, we're a couple of farm boys from Tatooine here, just hanging out talking Star Wars. But we really do. It's an opportunity to have intelligent conversation about Star Wars and thought-provoking stuff. And so we want to make sure that you know that if you have any comments, questions, or concerns about the show, what's going on, what we're talking about, if you don't agree with us, well, we want to know what you think. So be sure you hit up us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We respond to pretty much every post right now. In this part of the show, we'd like to go to Twitter questions. We don't have Twitter questions because this is the first episode. We need your help spreading this episode around.
Questions.
Yeah, we need your questions.
All the questions.
We need you to share this episode so people know where to find us, when to find us. We're going to be doing this on Saturdays from here on out. And so you submit questions all throughout the week. We'll take the best ones, and we'll have 3 to 5 of them for the episode. And we'll share them with you, and we'll debate all of that. Things coming down the pipeline. We're going to do a breakdown of Rebel Season 4 trailer, which is just a mind-blowing trailer. It's just the narration alone is just awesome.
I have to say, when I heard the people that were in attendance for that panel at Celebration, they got to see some stuff I haven't been able to find on the internet yet, and I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, we're waiting for those first 2 episodes to drop of Season 4. They're going to be pretty spectacular. We're seeing the artwork with the Mandalorian helmet right there in the forefront. It just, we're going to see a war.
I've only been able to find tidbits of information, which I'll compile up and everything, for that. For me, just in general, that's the culture I fell in love with in the Star Wars universe. So just something's going on with my people. That's kind of how I feel here. It's
a call to arms for you, man.
Yeah,
suit up.
It really is. It's kind of like, what's going on here? You just don't leave Mandalorian helmets laying on the ground like that.
Not casually, not typically. No.
You just see that teaser picture and you know that something bad is happening or going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for it. And at the same time, though, a part of me is like, it's only the 4th season and you're ending it.
I think that's good, though, because Dave Filoni has had a series ended on him abruptly with Clone Wars. They took it away from him, and he's not going to let that happen again. And I think this is good because at least he gets to end it the way he wants.
Yes, and I was really upset when that was announced, but then when he explained,
it makes sense.
I was like, okay, yeah, because I was really upset when Clone Wars got interrupted.
Right.
And it's really great, looking at all those side episodes that the unfinished episodes.
Absolutely. So, Jesse, before we go, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter mostly, which is Mando_Fury. I also stream on Twitch TV, Mando Fury. Just look that up. I play a variety of games. Right now, I am playing Star Wars: The Old Republic. It's an MMO. It's free to play, and if you love a story, you can play up through the main class stories for free. It's fantastic. Just in general, other games I'm playing. I do play Battlefront on occasion, and I destroy people on that game.
Oh, well, I'll break all you want.
Yeah.
That's a challenge. Someone needs to accept it. You can find me on Twitter, DPMalati, but more importantly, follow the show, Beyond the Blast Doors, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find us there. You can search us through the hashtag Beyond the Blast Doors, and just be on the lookout for all of our stuff. I mean, the biggest thing right now is subscribe to our channel and share our videos and tell your friends about what we're doing, because all we want to do is have this be a forum. We want to have that intelligent conversation about Star Wars. We want to have the fun of speculating. We want to break down the rumors, and we want to talk about the news of the day.
This is us reaching out to fellow fans. We want to hear back from you. We want to know your theories. We want to know your reactions to, the concept art that's coming out. The new, just anything, even some of the new toys. We're getting model kits.
Oh gosh, when the Lego sets come out, oh man.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of great things coming out. Again, it's all sorts of stuff. As David said, if you have cosplay, I want to see it.
Yeah. Okay,
because for me, it's still a learning process. I'm hoping that maybe if you're an amateur cosplayer or a beginner, like I am, I still consider myself a beginner. But exchanging those tips, that advice, in general, you might give me an idea on how to make something better on my own kit and vice versa. So
fair enough. That sounds good. We'll make sure that we'll have that information out there for Cosplayer of the Month. Be sure you get your bio and your best pick ready to go.
Definitely.
But that's going to do it for this issue of Beyond the Blast Doors. Thanks for joining us. May the Force be with you.